39 mini albums, and this tutorial is going to show you how I made this mini album, which was paper from Country Craft Creations called Bewitching Hour, and also using the Graphic 45 Midnight Tales paper pad. This one I used a 12 by 12 collection, and this one I used 8 by 8 with the 12 by 12 coordinating solids and patterns plus an ephemera pack. There are walkthroughs on both of these, so I advise you to go look at them and see what is in the mini album, and then we'll get started. First, I'm going to tell you that I've done a tutorial on how to make the cover separately, but you'll need to know the size of the cover. They are both 5 by 7, so you'll need to cut 2 pieces of chipboard 5 by 7, and I added the spine and I've enlarged it as I've gone, so I would make your spine 2 3/4 by 5. You'll get the formula for how to wrap the paper in the how to cover the mini album video, but basically it's going to be 2 inches large or so. 5 by 7, you want it to be 7 by 9, and for the spine piece you want it to be 3 inches wider. So instead of 2 3/4, it will be 5 3/4 by 7. So go ahead and do that, and then we will get started with the rest of the tutorial. Alright, so for the inside front cover, we're not going to do anything because here I simply put a banner on this one. I forget what I did on the Graphic 45 one. We'll have to look at that. I sometimes like to leave the front cover blank because this is great room for a 4 by 6 photo that sort of will set the tone for the rest of the book. So if you want, you can decorate it, or you can just use that for a photo. So the front of page 1 is a flap that opens like this, and I did put a tuck spot here, and there's a tuck spot there, and then on the front of that flap there is a pocket, and there is a tag in the pocket. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make this pocket, and we're going to make the flap, and there's that tag. So you will need a piece of paper 4 1/2 by 6 3/4. You'll need one 5 1/2 by 4 5/8, and the tag is 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. Let's put that one aside. We'll go ahead and the 4 1/2 by 6 3/4, put the 6 3/4 on the top and score it 1/2 inch. This 5 1/2 you're going to score on the short side, 2 short sides, 1 long side. So we'll score short side on the long side, meaning the short sides at the top, and on the short side, meaning the long sides at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my scissors and miter. The corner is going to go right through that X, and I'll miter here on this flap. And let's fold and burnish on all those score lines. And on this, I am going to take my corner rounder and round the corners. I don't know if I did this on both albums, but I just like the look of the corners being rounded here. That way people can identify it as it's not straight, so they know, hopefully they'll know to pull it out. Alright, so let us grab the book, and on the front of page 1 we're going to put this flap. There we go. And I'm going to line that up to the right edge and even with the top and the bottom. And then we'll take our pocket, and I'm going to put glue just on the one tab, not the two sides, but the one bottom. And I'm going to line that up to the right on top of what we already put down. And get that in straight. And burnish. And although I know I'm going to cover this with decorative paper, my paper may not go all the way to the end. I mean, I might just put paper about here, decorative paper there, because you won't see it all. It depends on what scraps I have left. So I am going to take a piece of tape and cover where that tab is. And the reason I'll do that is, now we'll close the pocket, but if you have something going in the pocket, that tape helps it so it slides easy and doesn't get hung up on where the tab is. All right, now I'll put tape on here. And we'll go ahead and close that, make sure it's even. But there is page 1. Now the only thing we have left to do is add magnets. So I put a circle to put the magnet in M so I remember. I'll probably forget, but we'll know there's a magnet supposed to be there. And I'm going to take the other piece and stick it in the pocket so it's all ready when I decorate. All right, now we'll move on to page in 1B, the back of page 1. All right, now we're going to do page 1 back. You will need a piece 5 1/4 by 6 1/2, and we're going to take that and score. Oh, let me show you the page first. So this has a flap that comes up, and it's got 2 flaps that go to the side, and then a flap that comes down, and there is a pocket. Now you can of course alter this pocket if you have different border strips or whatever to go in it. And then I've got some mats to go in that pocket. So whoops, this goes there, and that goes like that. And I have a magnet here on the back there, and on this flap that comes down I have a magnet inside there, and it's pretty strong so it holds real well. So we'll take this 5 1/4 by 6 1/2 and score that at 1/2 and at 3/4. And then we will take the side flaps, 2 of them at 5 1/2 by 4 1/2, and we'll score each of those at 1/2 inch. The bottom flap is 6 1/2 by 4, and we'll score that at 1/2 inch with the short side at the top, long side against the side. And then there's a pocket that I have at 2 1/2, and again you can adjust that to whatever size you want. To score on 2 short sides and 1 long side. And then I have a pocket insert. This one I have at 4 and 4 1/2 to go with a cut apart I have, but you can make that whatever size you want. Now let's go ahead and miter all those corners. So here's the pocket. The bottom flap. The two side flaps. And the top flap. So there's the two score lines. You're going to miter from the 1/2 inch score line. Ignore that second line. Just miter as you normally would at the 1/2 inch. Alright, so we're all done with that. Let's go ahead and burnish our folds. Alright, the pocket we're going to put on last. So let us put on, let's do the bottom flap. So I'm just going to use glue, put it on the bottom, and just line it up along the bottom just so it's straight. And we'll burnish. Then we'll take the top flap and you're just going to put glue on the 1/2 inch tab. And line that up against the top. So you want to make sure when you fold it that that little gusset is going to go right along the edge of the top of the paper. So we have those two. Now we'll do the side flaps. Make sure it's lined up so you're in between the score lines of your other flaps. And then finally we'll go ahead and put the pocket in. And I'm just going to put the bottom of the pocket on first. Go, make sure you still can close the bottom flap. So I'm a hair's width away from the fold line up above it. And then just to make sure that nothing will get hung up on the tab if you put something in that pocket, I'm going to add some tape. And then I'll go ahead and adhere the two side flaps of that pocket. And there we go. And I'll take my pocket insert and stick it in. Fold up the bottom flap, the two side flaps, and I'm burnishing as I fold, obviously. And then the top one. Alright, so that is the back of page 1. Now we'll do the front of page 2. And let me show you what that is. So the front of page 2, so there's a flap that comes up, and then you've got 2 accordion flaps on the side. I'm trying to get it in the camera. And then there's a flap that comes down, and you've got a pocket here, and the pocket has this insert that comes out. This is the flap on the top, so that insert comes out. And again, I may have explained it in the walkthrough, but this is if you have a portrait style photograph instead of landscape, or you could put landscape photos in there, either or. All right, so we've got that, oops, that, and that. So let us start with 2 pieces that are 10.5 by 4. I'm going to tell you the measurements and then we'll score. So 2 pieces 10.5 by 4, 1 piece 4.5 by 6 1/4. The pocket will be 4 3/4 by 7 1/2, and then that insert that comes out is 6 1/4 by 9 1/4. So I'll get my scoreboard, and the pocket we're going to score on 3 sides, so 2 short sides and 1 long side. Rotate, rotate, and score. 4.5 by 6 1/4. I forget what this is sometimes. Oh, this is the insert from the bottom. So you're going to score with the short side at the top, 1/2 inch on the long side. Now these 2 pieces that are 10.5 by 4, you're going to score at 3 1/4, at 6 1/2, and at 9 3/4. It's going to have a little, the normal tab instead of 1/2 inch. It's going to be just a little bit. And do the second one the same thing. So 3 1/4, 6 1/2, 9 3/4. And then the 6 1/4 by 9 1/4, you're going to score at 4 1/2 and 4 3/4. All right, let us fold and burnish this one. So you'll fold on both of those score lines. And let's miter the corners of our 10.5 by 4 inch pieces. So this one will be onto the right side, so that flap will go under, then fold to the right, and then to the left. And this one, the flap will go under, and it's going to be on the left side, and then go to the right, no, to the left, and to the right. The 4, oh, I didn't miter those corners. 4.5 by 6 1/4, go ahead and miter those corners, and fold and burnish on the 1/2 inch tab. In the pocket, we're going to miter 4 times. So miter at the X, and fold and burnish on the score lines. And I am going to go back and miter. Oh, I did miter those tabs. What am I talking about? Okay, so first we're going to put on the bottom flap. So the 4.5 by 6 1/4 we'll put on the bottom. So this is going to be centered on the bottom. It's not exactly the width of that page. It's a 1/4 of an inch smaller. So there will be 1/8 of an inch on each side. Then we're going to take our little accordion pieces. Are we going to put those on first? I always forget. Nope, I'm sorry. We're going to do the pocket next. So that's going to go above that last one, and not right on the score line, just a little bit above it. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And this is not going to go right up to the top of the page, and this will allow you to go ahead and put a notch in it. So before I glue the sides down, I'm going to take my circle punch and just going in halfway, centering it. I'll just put a little notch there. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab my tape, go across the bottom of that, just so nothing gets hung up in there, and then I will adhere the sides. Then I'm going to take my little side pieces. You know what? I did not miter the corners of one. I knew I forgot something. So I'll go ahead and add glue to it and put it on the pocket, one to the left side, and sort of put it towards the bottom, and one to the right side, and make sure that these two will meet. So put one on and then fold the other one and then put it on, making sure that they're centered and meet in the middle. Now, once you put on the decorative paper, you're going to put on the library style closure. And let me show you what that is. So it's the 2 circles with the brad and the string around it. Now, again, you can put it, the brads through the decorative paper and glue that on to here. But I want to show you how to do those, because I've had people ask. So I use my 1/2 inch circle punch and cut out 4 pieces of the cardstock. And then you'll also cut out 1 piece of your pattern paper. Since I don't know what pattern I'm going to use on this one, I'm not going to cut that right now, but I'm still going to show you how to do it. So put one of the circles on top of the one with the glue, so you'll stack up 2 circles. And I just make sure that they're even, squish it down. And there we go. And then take a hole punch, and I've got the Weir Memory Keepers, and just try to eyeball it into the center. If you want to be more meticulous, you can draw lines or measure exactly. I just eyeball it. And you'll also need to make a hole, so we're going to grab the circles, and I know it's a little hard to see. Should I make one out of white paper real quick? Oh, you can see. Okay, so I'm going to put it there, and there's going to be a 1/2 inch between it, so a 1/4 inch from the edge. Center it top to bottom and make a mark. And again, you're going to be doing this on your pattern paper, and then adhere the pattern paper to this. But since I don't have pattern paper, then we're gonna put it on here. Come here. So I'm gonna make a hole. I missed the mark, but that's okay. It's just for illustration purposes. And then on one side, you're going to take your string, and again on your pattern paper, you're going to go up through the hole that you've just made. Leave maybe an inch left. Grab your tape. And I'm just going to separate the strands a little bit and tape it down. Then you're going to take your brad, go through the circle on your hole, and put it in the same hole that the string is in. And just spread the legs on the brad, and there we go. So there is your library style closure. Of course, I'll put the other one in. And what I do when I'm making these is I just put the brads on the page, even though I know I'm going to be putting it on the decorative paper, just so it's all ready when I'm ready to put it all together. So these actually will open. This tab will come up, then these will close. I'll go around a time or two. It's nice if you have charms to put on the ends of the string. Once you've done it a couple of times, it memorizes where it wants to be. Okay, this string is way too long. So I'll cut a little bit of it. And then you'll take the 6 1/4 by 9 1/4 and slip it in that pocket that you made. And that's going to cover everything. So these two pages will look the same, and you can decorate them almost identical, but the pages are actually different. So that is that. Now we're going to go on to 2B. So for 2B, you're going to need several pieces of paper. You will need 2 that are 6 1/2 by 5 1/2. You will need 2 that are 4 1/2 by 6 1/4. You will need 2 that are 4 1/2 by 2 1/4, and 2 that are 5 3/4 by 5. Because, oh, I forgot to show you the page. So these pages are identical. There's a little tab. This one has a magnet on it that opens, but my graphic 45 one doesn't have the magnet. The graphic 45 one has a brad with one of the ephemera pieces to make a swing tab. So what happens is this little tab comes in, this will open, this comes up. So on this side, the swing tab goes up or down. That flap opens, this opens, and this goes up. Now on the Bewitching Hour one, I don't have a swing tab, but I have a magnet. So this will open like that. And this page, come here page, comes up. And I also wanted to show you that there is a side loading pockets on both sides of, on either side of both pages. So let me show you how that comes together. So let us score, let's start with a small one. We'll put the 2 1/4 inch side at the top, score at 1/2 inch, and score at 5/8. So 1/2 inch and 5/8. With the long side at the top of the 4 1/2 by 6 1/4, for a score at 1/2 inch. The 5 3/4 by 5, put the 5-inch side at the top and score at 1/2 inch. And then you have 6 1/2 by 5 1/2. So you're going to score on 3 sides. This is going to be a long pocket, so it's going to be the side loading pocket. So score on the 2 long sides. So put the short side at the top and score. Rotate. Long side at the top and score. Rotate again, and the short side at the top and score. And do the same for the other pocket. And I believe I do have the mats to go in the pocket cut as well, and we'll go over that next. So on the pockets, miter on all 4 corners. And miter all the rest of the pieces, and when it comes to the small ones, you're going to miter from that 1/2 inch up. So you're going to leave that 1/8 of an inch gusset just the way it is. Alright, and then we'll grab our book. And again, these pages are matching. So what we do to one, we'll do to the other. Let's put the pocket down first. So we have the 2 pockets. Well, let's go ahead and fold on the score lines and burnish. Do the pocket. And as I like to do in all my pockets, I'm going to first adhere the, well, in this case it's not the bottom, it's the side. So we're going to line that up with the paper, with the page. Don't go all to the edge of the hinge, but just the edge of the page. And line it up, make sure the top and bottom are lined up as well. I'm going to do the other one, and then I'll get out tape and put the tape down. So again, I'm lining it up with the page, not with the hinge. There's about 1/8 of an inch left showing on the hinge. And I'll just grab tape. Now I may cover this with our patterned paper, and it won't even make a difference, but it may not, because sometimes I like to use what scraps I have left, so the pattern paper may not go all the way into the pocket. And now that I've done that, I'll go ahead and add glue to the other tabs and close this pocket up. Put that down and burnish that glue down. So, there we go. So the pockets are down. Now we're going to take the 4 1/2 by 6 1/4, fold and burnish on the score line. And now this is going to get adhered to the edge of the pocket, not the edge of the page. So here's the pocket. We're going to put it right there on the edge. Put my glue and go to the edge of the pocket that we just put on there, making sure it's straight, lining up with the top and the bottom, and burnish. So we'll do that with the next one. Alright, so we have those 2 pages that go like that. Now on these flaps, we have a flap that goes up. So that is the 5 3/4 by 5. We'll fold and burnish those. And open up that flap that's on the pocket and add your page, your flap to that flap. Add your flap to that one flap. Should line up pretty well. Make sure this page can still close, so don't go over that score line on the left-hand side. And then on this side, we're going to do the same. And make sure this page will still close. And we're good with that. All right, now open this up, and we're going to take our 4 1/2 by 2 1/4 inch piece and fold and burnish on both of those score lines. And line it up with the page. It's really the pocket, so put it on the pocket that we've already put on the edge of the pocket, and just get it on nice and straight and fold and burnish. We'll do that with both. So again, you can either use a magnet or a swing tab, swivel tab, whatever you want to call it, for this page. If you were to use a swing tab, you need to, we'll close this page, and you're going to put it on the decorative paper. Whatever you use to decorate this, you're going to put the swing tab on there. So again, for here, you're going to put it, line it up on the page, and put the brad onto the paper, and then glue the paper down. So there is that. And then I believe I cut 4 by 6 1/2, 2 sheets 4 by 6 1/2, and they will go into the pocket. It'll stick out a little bit. If you want, you can round the corners, put a little tab on it, whatever you want to do. But there are those hidden photo mats to go into that page. All right, we're rocking and rolling. Now we're going to go to 3B, and let me show you what that looks like. So on this mini album with the Bewitching Hour paper, so that's the back of this. So I've got a flap that goes up, and that there's a flap that goes to the side. So that's it for that one. That's easy. So you'll need 2 pieces of paper. You'll need one that's 5.5 by 4.5, and you'll need one that's 5 by 5. 5 by 5, just score on one side. Doesn't matter which, does it? The 5.5 by 4.5, that one we're going to score with the 5.5 side at the top, the long side at the top. I'm actually going to turn it around just so my writing's proper, but 5.5 side at the top and score. And let us miter those corners. Why do we miter the corners? Because if it's not straight on the paper, you will see a little bit of the flap sticking out. And it also hides once you put the decorative paper on there. So this one, the 5 by 5, this one's going to go down first. This one's going to go down on the bottom. The 5.5 by 4.5. So hold the paper with the 5 by 5 on the right and the flap on the top. The 5.5 by 4.5. I'm sorry. The 5.5 by 4.5 to the right with the flap on the side. The 5 by 5 to the left with the flap on the top. Turn over the 5.5 by 4.5. Add glue to the flap. Take this and put it on top of your 5 by 5. Line it up and put the flap down onto the other one and close it. So now you've got this. The flap is on the back. It doesn't matter really. You could do it the other way, but that way you know you get it lined up nice. And let's go ahead and add some glue to this top flap and just center it if you want. I mean, if you want, you can go a little more to the right or a little more to the left. On my page, I centered it. Because this page, it's going to have the same lines similar to this, so that's why you can decorate it with the same paper, but it's not the same page. So we're going to go to this page, 4F, and what this is it's got a flap that opens to the side and another one to the side, so you have 2 spots for 3x4 photos, and then another flap, and that opens up, and a big flap that's opening up, and then you have a pocket, and there's photo mats, journaling cards inside the pocket. I have a magnet on the inside of this page. I also have one on this page and one on the pocket. So where do I have it? You could put it on the corner, bottom corner of this open flap, and then right on the bottom page. And then I have another one in the center just so it all sticks together. You don't have to do that if you don't want. You might not even need a magnet here, but that is what I have for that. And let's get started with cutting it. So you will need, for 4F, you will need a pocket that's 7.5 by 3. You're going to score on 3 sides. Long side at the top, score at 1/2 inch. Short side at the top, score 1/2 inch. And long side at the top, score 1/2 inch. Okay, the one that you have 2 of, 4.5 by 4.25. Put the 4.25 side at the top and score at 1/2 inch on both of those. 4.25 side at the top, score at 1/2 inch. And the piece that is 5 by 4.5 with the 5-inch side at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Alright, let us fold and burnish. So the piece with the gusset cut at 1/2 inch tab. Leave the gusset alone. And we'll just miter all the rest from the 1/2 inch mark. And of course the pocket you're going to miter on the 2 top tabs and right across the X on the bottom. Alright, let's fold and burnish on all of those score lines. And be careful when you're burnishing on that piece with the 1/8 of an inch gusset. Sometimes it's just hard to fold it where it needs to be folded. So let's start with the pocket. And put the bottom on, line it up against the bottom. That one's pretty easy to go down. I'll grab my tape and just go along the bottom. And then adhere the sides. Alrighty. The 5 1/8 by 6 1/2. Put glue on the 1/2 inch tab and adhere to the top of the page. Line it up with the pocket. And make sure the top of that gusset is going to be flat. Oops, come on. You have to line up that score line, the 1/2 inch score line, with the top of the page so that gusset is flat against the top of the page. There we go. Alright, so we have the 2 smaller flaps, the 4 1/2 by 4 1/4 and the 5 by 4 1/4 with the flap. It's going to be at the top. I'm going to fold and burnish. So I'm going to take one of these smaller tabs, smaller flaps, and put glue on the tab and adhere that to the right hand side of the other one. No, that should be easy, shouldn't it? Okay. Right hand side of the other one. It's not going on straight. I could have put it, oh, there we go. Now we still have this flap, and with the tab on the top, I'm going to glue this right onto the right hand side of the remaining one. Line it up, make sure top and bottom and sides are all lined up. So we've got this, this, and then this with the flap on the top that'll go up like that. So I'm going to glue on here. and center it on the page. And burnish. So here we go. We've got that, and then this. And I'm going to grab my chalk pencil and put a circle there for a magnet. I'll probably put another magnet here on the flap that goes up, and then I'll probably put a magnet here on the pocket. So there is the front of page 4. Now let's do the back of page 4, which, getting close to the end. Are you excited? So the back of page 4, so this one has swivel tab, and I'll show you on the other book as well. So this page opens like this, and then the swivel tab opens, and you've got 2 large opportunities for photos. Now let me show you on the graphic 45 one, just so you see the difference. So on here, I've got 2 swing tabs, one on the right, one on the left. The one on the left will open all the way. You have to be careful of how big a swing tab you put on here, which is why I ended up with a magnet on the other one. But then this opens like that. Then the swing tab closes, and you open the one on the right, and then this whole thing opens to there. So I'm going to show you how to put the page together, and you can decide if you want to use magnets or swing tabs. So the page is just 2 pieces of paper, 6 1/4 by 4 1/2, and 5 1/4 by 4 1/2. So let's get the scoreboard. So the 5 1/4 by 4 1/2, I'm going to turn it upside down. You'll put the long side at the top and score it 1/2 inch. And then the 6 1/4 by 4 1/2, long side at the top, score it 1/2 inch. And I'm going to miter the corners. Fold and burnish on the score lines. And I'm going to take the smaller piece, the 5 1/4 by 4 1/2, and add glue to the 1/2 inch tab. So add glue, and we're going to come in about 1/2 inch and put this flap 1/2 inch from the right hand side, center it on the page, and burnish. So you have 1/2 inch here, so this will open like that. And then we've got the tab here on that side, and we are going to adhere that onto 4B all the way to the left hand side. And again, make sure it's centered, or not centered, make sure it's lined up with the top and bottom of that page. And that is it as far as adhering the page. Again, you will want to either put a magnet here and here, or put a swing tab there and there. And again, you put it on the decorative paper before you adhere it to the page. So now we can do the inside back cover, and this is where we have an accordion pocket with another library style closure. I'm not going to go through on how to do that because we already have. And it's got, well, I put an extra cut apart in there, but it's got a folder. So again, you can put landscape or portrait style photos or just journaling. And so when I say accordion, it opens up, it stretches. It can be 1/2 inch wide if you have that many photos. And you've got the flap that goes up. It's got a gusset on it. So for that you will need for the top tab, you'll need 6.5 by 3, the top flap. For the pocket, you'll need 8.5 by 4, and for the folder, 8.5 by 6.25. So make sure I get this right. With the 8.5 side at the top, score in half at 4.25. So just score at 4.25. So there you've got a little booklet. Just fold in half and that's done. So for the pocket with the long side at the top, you're going to score at half, at 3/4, and at 1. Score at 7.5, 7 3/4, and 8. Now rotate to put the short side at the top and score at half, 3/4, and 1. All right, we're done with, whoops, we're not done with that. So the 6.5 by 3, put the short side at the top and score at half and 3/4. And then also, if you wish, you can take a corner rounder and round the bottom. I'm going to grab my scissors and miter the corners. So we'll miter at the 1/2 inch on the 6.5 by 3 and miter at just the 1/2 inch on the top, but on the bottom, so there are all these crisscrosses. You're going to miter to the innermost line. So you're going to take your scissors and go at a slight angle up to that dot. Same with this one. Slight angle up to the innermost score. So you have all those tic-tac-toe boards. Now you're going to turn it upside down, and you're going to first fold in to the center of the paper. So do that on all 3 sides. You can grab your bone folder, but I just want to show you how to do. So you go in, and then out, and then in. And now I'll grab my bone folder and burnish. So this is in, and then out, and then in. And one more time, it's in, then out, and then in. And then I'm going to grab just a little bit of, you could use a glue dot. But I'm going to take the bottom flap, I know it's on the top, and fold this one and just tape the side so that stays. I'm going to cut off, I had too much tape on there. Just so that stays when you're going to adhere it to the paper. I'm going to cut this piece of tape in half and fold one in, fold one on top of it, grab the tape just so it stays. So there's that. I know we usually glue the bottom and then put tape on, but I'm not going to this because it's more important that the accordion stay the way it needs to be than things get hung up. Just try to remember when you're putting in decorative paper to go all the way to the bottom. So I'm going to fold and burnish on the score lines on the 6.5 by 3 pocket, and or 6.5 by 3 flap, and then I'll add glue, including on top of the tape, to all 3 sides of this pocket, and making sure it is centered on this page. You don't want to go too close to the hinge system, and you don't want to go too close to the edge. So I'm going to go about 1/4 inch from the edge of both. Put down the bottom first, and then the 2 sides, and burnish so it stays flat and so the glue adheres. So there's that, and then we'll put glue on that 1/2 inch tab. I'm going to open this up and make sure it's lined up with the pocket that you've just put on there. Put the 1/2 inch tab right at the top of the page, top of the back cover actually. Make sure it's centered, and we're good. I'm going to burnish that, wipe off the excess glue, and I will take my folder and put it in the pocket. So again, library style closure, you could do a swing tab. If you wanted to do magnets, you would probably want to make this a little bigger. Instead of it by 3, do 3.5. So now that we've got that done, I am going to show you 2 different methods of using those hidden pocket pages. Do I have the same size? Alright, so the pages are 4.5 by 6.5, and there are pockets inside each one. So if you cut some cardstock to 6.5 by 4, you should still have just 1/4 of an inch, a little more, poking out. So I don't like mine to get any bigger than the cover of the book. So I will probably trim that down so there's just, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch sticking out. That is up to you how you want to do that. Alright, I'm going to show you how to make a tab onto these hidden photo mats using We Are Memory Keepers tab punch board and a tab punch. So my photo mat I've cut 4 by 7, which I know is too big, but I know I'll trim it down. And I'm going to mark where the center of this 4 inches is. I'm going to not put it on so dark that I can't erase it, but this is just for demonstration purposes. Now earlier I had cut some tabs with my tab punch. I took one and folded it in half, and then I made a tab on a scrap piece of paper. So let me do one tab. I'm just gonna eyeball it. Take my little tab, I folded it in half, gonna put it on here with a border around it, and now I know that I want to cut this side of it so it's the same amount as that is. So I had marked on my We Are Memory Keepers punch board where the center of that's going to be. And so I line up my center mark, and I made a mark on here, punch it, and see I've got a border around my tab that I cut with this. So this does not always cut straight to me, but I'm going to do it just to see. It's going to make a liar out of me. It's okay. It's a little bumpy. Sometimes it comes out bumpy. But anyhow, so that's how I know where my tab is going to be, and I've marked it on my tab punch board. So here's my half, it's 2 inches, so there's my halfway mark. I'm going to line it up with the halfway mark I put on here, punch, and then I'm going to line it up with the more than I need mark there, and punch. And use the little punch board to cut off that, and then I know that when I punch the tab with my tab punch, it will fit on here and on here. Yes, I need to erase my mark. Oops. Now when I put paper down, yeah, there is going to be a little gap there, and that's okay. That doesn't bother me. Now I'm going to put it in my book. And I notice that it is 1/4 of an inch bigger than that page needs to be. So I can cut it down 1/4, but if I want less than this to show, so if I want just that amount of the tab to show, then I need to cut it more than 1/4. So I'm going to cut it 1/2 inch. So I'm going to cut on this side 1/2 inch. I'm going to do it over here. And then I know, I'll take out this one that's in there, that this can go in my hidden pocket, and it will go a little bit more than 1/2 inch. And you see the tab peeking out, but you close the book and it's still within the confines of the cover. Now you can make it bigger. If you want it this big, that is okay with me, however you want it. But probably I prefer to have that much, but these pages are so big on the book, I guess I could have made the cover bigger, but I didn't want to. So that is how I determine how to put the, where to put the tab on, how to cut it, how to punch it, and how to trim it. Now, if you wanted to have one tab up at the top and then consecutively, you're going to have to do the math to figure that out. But that is how I have made my Graphic 45 Midnight Tales mini album, along with the Bewitching Hour mini album, where the paper is only available from Country Craft Creations. So I hope that answers all of your questions on how to make this mini album. Please leave any extra questions in the comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications, because I will be making at least one more mini album with this same design. So thanks again for watching. Have a fabulous day.